And here with me in studio, our Microsoft Research Principal Researcher, Desni Tan, and University of Washington graduate student, Gabe Cohn. Welcome, gentlemen, and congratulations on your cameo there in the commercial.
Oh,
in the lab coat. You didn't think I would notice.
I did not.
You got a lab coat. Is there an extra street cred when you get a lab coat?
Absolutely.
Got to get one of those.
Yep.
I've only worn one at Halloween, but you got the real deal. So I don't want to oversell this thing, but I understand that you guys are going to sort of really talk about how we can control the universe with my mind waves.
Controlling the universe.
Yeah.
I thought we agreed we weren't going to expose our ploy to
Right.
control the universe.
I guess I should ask first, do you know what I'm thinking right now?
I do.
How deep does this go? So talk about what you're here. This is cool.
Sure. So I think you're alluding to some of our early work in brain-computer interfaces. So this was the attempt to put electrodes or sensors on the head to basically provide much richer mechanisms for people to communicate with computers. Since then, we've actually grown that agenda quite a bit. It's something we refer to as natural user interfaces. The basic idea is this, that as computer scientists, we've spent a lot of time, historically, making computers smaller, faster, cheaper.
Right.
And we've done such a good job of it that we've really shifted the problem space quite a bit recently. We now work on making computing more accessible, more of the time, more of the place, to more people, and really to do more interesting things. And this is really the underlying philosophy around natural user interfaces. Now, if you look at natural user interfaces and you look at Rick Rashid's keynote this morning, he alludes to what we mean by natural user interfaces. And one component of this is really in empowering computers with way more senses than they've traditionally had. This really allows us to do two things. One is it gives us the ability to design far richer communication channels between the human and computers. And the other is, even when we're not trying to communicate with computers, it allows our computers to observe us and to be aware of our location and the tasks we're trying to do and other such context so that they can be invisibly assisting us in our tasks. So rather than talk about brain-computer interfaces today, we actually thought we'd come
because that's yesterday's news to you, right? You're like, oh, that old stuff?
It is where we started. Everything emanates from the brain.
Right.
We've actually moved to the rest of the body. It turns out the body is this wonderful signal generator. We're emanating signals all the time. Right. And so the approach we've been taking has been one of getting these sensors either carried or worn on the body to be able to infer a bunch of activities, whether explicit or implicit, with the user, such that the computer can help us in our.
So you're really talking about like making us an antenna.
So that is part of the project that we're going to talk about. We've tried a bunch of stuff in the space. For example, in a collaboration with the University of Washington, we played with this thing we call muscle-computer interfaces. So this is the notion that we'd like to be able to sense finger gestures as you go about your real-world tasks to be able to communicate with computers. Turns out most people don't want to wear gloves to be able to sense those finger gestures. And so one of the grad students there, Scott Saponis, who actually works for Microsoft now, designed an armband that looks at your muscle activity to be able to sense those fine-grained finger motion. Different project called Skinput. So Chris Harrison from CMU came out and interned with us, looked at how you would turn your body into the touch surface.
Wow.
Much akin to some of the augmented reality stuff that was demoed in the keynote this morning. So a long string of cool projects.
Well, and you talk about your partnership with the University of Washington. Gabe, proud grad. Talk about how you entered this equation.
Well, I'm not quite a proud grad yet. I'm actually in the
middle.
have
I jinxed you?
Yeah, I know.
Well, hit the books. Get out of here. You got it. No. Okay.
So I'm a third-year PhD student at the University of Washington.
Okay.
And I work in the Ubiquitous Computing Lab under Shwetak Patel. And we do a lot of work on sensing, and we seem to focus on sensing in a very small way. So we want to do sensing a lot of different things. We want to do it with a single sensor. So for example, we've done a lot of work in the home for sustainability. So you could have one sensor you plug into your wall, and you could sense all the different appliances in your home and how much power they're consuming.
Wow.
We've done a similar thing for water and gas and other things. And so
kind of a home audit. You could be able
right,
to tell
exactly. And again, from a single sensor. So it's very easy to do this. You install one sensor, and now you know what's going on in your house. And so the partnership that we have here was basically, all right, let's take this knowledge that my lab has and that I have in doing very low instrumentation in order to get a lot of information about what's going on with a lot of the natural user interfaces that Desney and his group has done. And can we, with minimal instrumentation, figure out what your body's doing so that a computer knows?
You're talking about literally the idea of being able to wear a device so I could walk into the house and sort of control stuff.
Exactly.
Like lights and what, right?
That's right. I think it's also worth pointing out that in the world of mobile computing, in
Yeah.
which we live today, there's basically two approaches to trying to sense what the human is doing. One is to put instrumentation in the environment, so cameras, other sensors, and you could instrument all environments that you care to compute in. We don't think that ultimately that will scale amazingly well. We just don't want to be instrumenting every single environment in every room in the world with a particular set.
Well, I saw that, on here. Zero environmental instrumentation.
That's right.
Is that what you're talking
That's right.
about? You're talking about having nothing there.
That's right. So with no augmentation to the environment, a simple sensor that the user carries, we'd like to be able to sense some of the things in complement with the sensors that happen to be in the environment already.
Like, what would you carry? Like full body armor, I assume, with all sorts of blinking things in a Jacob's ladder going off of antennas on my helmet.
Well, that's what I'd like to learn.
That's right.
We kind of all would, right? But you're
that's
talking
kinda-
about something more practical?
Yes. So that's how it starts in the research lab. In fact,
Yeah.
if you come into the lab, you'll see us daily wearing all sorts of crazy stuff and
Right.
walking around. Ultimately, the evolution of technology is such that we try to get it smaller and smaller and smaller and more practical for ease of use in the real world.
So how small have we gotten? Where are we at?
So we have gotten it down to this slightly larger than
Wow.
a wristwatch form factor.
Yeah. All right. So here's my watch. Here's your watch. Mine
Yeah,
just
so-
tells time. Lame. So what does this do?
So this will allow you to, by simply putting that on, you can actually interact with a computer using gestures. So,
For example.
for example, you could be gaming, similar to Kinect, or you could, as you said before, control your lights or other home automation by just, waving your arms or...
So this is like the ultimate, like, I could have the Force. Like, if I could get one of these and not tell my wife and daughters, I could.
You could
Could
have
really-
the Force.
could have the
It is-
I don't
it is
need
true.
any light. I'll go off. Got cred.
Yep.
Wow. This is pretty impressive. So this is we actually have some video of the earlier prototype. That's got to be part of the fun process, right? Is to see the evolution
yeah.
of your own work here. I mean,
Sure.
here it is.
So this is
in,
actually
early
this prototype, and what you can see is,
Yeah.
I'm performing some action, and you can see the thing is sensing that the top signal is actually the value from the sensor. And so you notice that when I was moving my leg before, even though the wristwatch itself wasn't moving, we could sense that leg movement, which,
Wow.
for example, with an accelerometer you can't do.
Wow. And so talk about how this is really working in partnership with the body. I mean, like the olden days of grabbing the antenna and somehow I get a better reception, or some people believe it works or not with your car remote. If I hold it up to my chin,
Exactly.
I can get it to unlock much further away. It's actually working with the body, right?
And that's how it works. The body is acting as an antenna.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, the power lines and appliances in your home or any building you work in are emitting electromagnetic noise. And this is very low frequency noise, and it's received on the body. And based on how you move, that noise signature actually changes. And so that's what we're looking at. We're just measuring the voltage on your body, and we can figure out where you are and how you're moving.
And obviously there would be some concerns at face value without really looking into it going, well, does that mean there's stuff going through? Because I already hear holding my cell phone and being on it too much is putting bad waves
So-
in me. Should I be concerned about what's going from the watch through my body and out?
So the nice thing is, unlike your cell phone, this watch isn't transmitting anything. We're simply listening to the signals that are already on your body.
Wow.
So as you're sitting here right now, there is signal that's going through your body. To take your analogy, which is a great one, when you grab that antenna, you could move your body around, and your TV reception, your radio reception would change. It's kind of a pain because you'd let go sit on the couch, and it get fuzzy again. All we're really doing is looking at that signal that's already passing through your body.
You have
and-
more video here of sort of the demo on how, as you
Yeah.
said, you can wave your arm, it responds.
Yes.
Those are impressive
So
punches, by the way.
here's Gabe in the lab.
Yes.
This is what we have
took-
many of our students do.
Months of practice to get that punch kick down.
Right.
I had to learn how to play Tetris too.
Wow. So this is pretty impressive stuff. And for you guys, I mean, how long has this process been to get to even where we are now?
So it's been about 2 years since we first had the idea. In fact, nearly 2 years ago now, actually over 2 years ago now, Shwetak Patel, Gabe's advisor, came over and he said, hey, I've got this really young student that's going to be a
But
superstar.
he's great at punching and kicking.
Indeed.
You've got to
indeed.
see his punches and kicks.
And we said, we'll take him.
Okay. And they said, and he's free because he's a student. We'll take him.
That's right.
Well, and a lot of folks, I feel like, for watching this are going to say, you know, if they just see that demo, they're going to go, well, wait, doesn't like Kinect already do that? I can already wave my hand and stuff happens on the screen. So, I mean, obviously this is different because you're not talking about just what's happening on the screen.
That's right. And so a part of the video here, which we didn't show, but, you know, Gabe is able to turn around and do the punches and kicks. And, you know, since there isn't a camera or a sensor in the environment,
right.
there are no occlusion issues. The sensor is on him and he is the sensor. You know, you could go to a different room, you know, potentially a new room that you've never, you know, instrumented, and this thing would still work. And so the opportunities for mobile computing and for the richness of computing actually, you know, is very nicely complementary to sensors like Kinect and other such environmental sensors.
I'm sure there's any number of things that you could list here, but what, from your perspective, has been the toughest part of evolving, you know, the human antenna, as you're calling it? Well, what's been the trickiest part in getting to the stage?
The trickiest part is actually the initial part, is finding out that this works.
Right.
And the way this happened is I went to Desney's house, and you know, I had a bunch of lab equipment with me that I was hooked up in different places, and I just started standing in his living room doing strange gestures and watching the equipment to see
Right.
if something changed.
Right.
And you know, we saw something, and then we explored that deeper and figured out why.
Yeah, I got a phone call from my wife that day, and she called and told me, hey, your intern's in the house, and he's standing around waving his arms and doing some weird stuff. Is that okay?
Right.
This is how I met his wife. You know,
Yeah.
I'm standing there doing these weird things, and she walks in and
Right.
says, oh, hi.
Right. Well, it's sort of the concern I had when I first got Kinect. I remember going, I think I need to close the blinds because the neighbors are just going to walk by and see me doing weird stuff
Right,
in the
right.
window. I'm going to be profiled in the neighborhood as the weirdo. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, that's what's fascinating looking at this, you know, prototype is frankly, it looks exactly like the stuff I created in my room as a kid. I would just get a little circuit board. I'd rip apart an old watch. I'd glue it all together. If I could get one piece to move, in my mind, I was convinced I've created something. It's a new invention. But that this actually works. I mean, this is small. Obviously, again, this is basically the size of a wristwatch. But how complex is this? I mean, how, you know, did you have to kind of rethink it? We got to make it smaller. Now we can do without that part. Now we can do with this.
So the beauty of it is actually the hardware is really simple.
Yeah.
All it's really doing is measuring the voltage on your body. So we measure that voltage, we convert it to a digital signal with an analog digital converter, and then the rest is all done in software. There's a lot of machine learning to figure out, you know, how that signal represents what you're doing. But the hardware itself is extremely simple.
So what's next? I mean, you've got the, you know, the latest prototype here. Where do you see this going?
We keep going. I mean, you know, the thing that we often don't talk about, and the risk of airing a backstage
Sure.
laundry.
Yeah, sure.
You know, Gabe describes a very simple story behind how we got to this spot. But there was actually a lot of work, and the reason it's taken 2 years is there was a lot of work in understanding the phenomena and trying to figure out how to decode it. You know, I recall the days where we had Gabe hanging from the ceiling in a climbing harness because we wanted to figure out if
Which was part of his initiation. right?
it was.
Really.
You know,
Had nothing to do with this.
Other interns would walk by and they'd all of a sudden listen to us a little bit more when
Yeah.
they saw Gabe hanging from the ceiling.
Right.
But we wanted to check the grounding if it mattered to the ground.
Right.
We had bags hanging. We had Gabe run out to the field to figure out if the electrical noise out in an open area would be the same as in an environment. So there were a lot of experiments that sort of led to this point. Some of the most difficult things right now, I think, are looking at making a robust system work in the real world, in every environment, in every situation, and being able to sense the gestures in much more detail than we're able to get right now. So you sort of see the kicks and the punches. But what we ultimately like to be able to do is to sense much finer grain gestures. And that's what we're working on currently.
So even, you know, like not punches, like where you do this thing.
Exactly.
It needs to sense the. I was thinking about.
That's
right. I was thinking about.
Yep.
Do you worry? How do you worry? I mean, you mentioned right there you don't want to air too much of your laundry. Do you worry about like that anybody else is doing this right now too? That there's some guys in a room right now while you're here talking live with me online, and they're wait a minute, We've got it.
Yeah.
We figured it out. I mean, is there a competitive nature in this? I mean,
There is certainly a competitive nature, although to us, if there are multiple guys in their rooms working on this, that would sort of be the ideal case.
Right.
And that is part of the open research model that we have.
as long as you squash theirs. Right.
Well,
Right.
you know, the only defense against something like that is for us to run faster.
Right.
And you know that's what we do. We're running as fast as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And we do hope that multiple people pick up on the ideas. Part of the reason we do open research is to disseminate and share the ideas so that more people can work on it. And we as a community sort of run as fast as we can.
Right.
Whoever gets there first.
Well, and obviously with the world we're living in now, with the social world, people on Twitter and people posing questions, it's not totally unrealistic to think that there'll be some really smart 14-year-old kid who, well, why didn't they just try this? And then
That'd
you
be
go,
great.
My goodness, write that down. He's right. That's it. That's the key we've been looking for.
Absolutely. And as much as we treated Gabe as all smart 14-year-old kid, even though he's not 14, there are multiple,
Right.
Many more smart minds out there.
Well, it seems like the consumer side of this is obvious. I mean, of course, people would love that to someday to be able to walk in and for it to, we don't have to go to some futuristic sci-fi space station for that to happen. It could happen in our home with something like this. People on Twitter, in fact, talking about that. Somebody already tweeting, "Where can I get one of these human antennas?" So people are already like, "Where can I buy it? Where do I run to? Because I'm ready to go."
Great.
Yeah.
The answer is it's not available, right?
We're working on it. We're moving as fast as we can. We are inventing the future here, and that takes time. But we are running as fast as we can.
Well, and obviously, if you were to release it the way it is now, wearing it like this, I might not get style points, or I might, depending what crowd I'm hanging out with. People could either dig it or be, not digging it. And it's a little pointy at this point. I've got 2 daughters, so I couldn't have these points. I couldn't have the sharp points.
Gotta be
now.
careful with those.
But considering how tiny this is and what you're talking about, it's pretty impressive. I mean, are you at the point in your research and development where you're already going, it's too big. We've got to
Yeah.
cut it in half.
Yeah. I mean, and that is just a prototype. And so if we were to make a product, for example, it would be much smaller, and it wouldn't have points.
What do you? I mean, if you were to just forecast, 'cause, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were plugging our cell phones into cigarettes and had leather carrying cases, and we're like, can you believe this? I can make calls from it. And now that you can't even feel our phones in our pocket. They're so sleek. Can you even forecast what you imagine? I mean, do you imagine it being half that size, half that big? Not a fraction of that.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it perhaps being in your cell phone, which you can't even feel, right?
Right.
So you don't even know you're necessarily carrying it. It's just part of the devices you already carry.
So you're saying at this point the watch is sort of just a practical way to demo it, but it probably wouldn't even be a watch at some point. It would just be a small embedded thing.
Ultimately, this could be small and embedded in multiple different devices, and that's again to be seen. If you look back at the videos we had, we started off with Gabe holding a scope and various cables. We then went to Gabe backpacking a laptop and various acquisition devices, and then it was a fanny pack. Now it's a watch, and we'll keep shrinking it and keep packing it into more and more pleasant form factors as the research gets more mature.
And it seems like this would be a logical way for you to eventually write some sort of a book, Confessions of a Tech Guinea Pig, or something like that. Because it seems like
I should
there's
start working on
the
it.
theme here where it's, we hung Gabe upside down, then we sent him into a dunk tank, then we've got him swimming with the great white sharks. We wanted to see if that would do anything.
So
At some point, you're going to go, no, you do it. You put it on and go.
The real problem is Desney has this collection of these videos and pictures of strange things I've done, which he'll probably use as blackmail at some point in the future.
Right.
It's true.
And talk about the joint effort that's happening. I mean, we mentioned it, obviously, between Microsoft and the University of Washington here in Seattle. One might think, well, why didn't Microsoft just do it themselves?
Sure.
Or vice versa? Why the partnership?
Yeah, it's a wonderful. I mean, we subscribe to the open research model, and it's a wonderful model. We've got about 1,000 wonderful researchers and many, many more smart people within the company. But ultimately, we can't do everything at all times, and there's a lot of expertise and a lot of creativity that exists outside of the lab. To me, it's one of the best parts of the job, getting to interact with students and faculty in academia, as well as our industrial counterparts, to be able to really take technology and deliver, healthcare solutions and finance solutions and education solutions, and really to move the world into utilizing technology in much more productive ways. And so the University of Washington is one of our closer partners, partially because they're a stone's throw away,
Right.
but also because they've got one of the top computer science departments in the country. And so we're fortunate to have labs like Gabe's and Shwedek's, across the way to interact with, and we love it. But I should also point out that we work with labs across the country and across the world in different academic institutes.
Well, and for you, from the student side of things, it's got to be cool to be a part of something
Oh yeah, it's
so
it's great.
tangible, and this could be the next big thing. I mean, and
Yeah.
here you are. You were the guy hanging upside down before we all had this on our phone, right?
Right, and it's great to work at Microsoft Research, and they have a lot of really great researchers, and you really get to know the community well. And then when you go up to conferences, you actually know people, and so it's a great experience for students as well.
It seems like there's almost kind of a cool superhero factor to this, and that, I mean, do you find yourself at home or with friends and colleagues thinking, you guys don't have any idea what I'm up to? wait till they understand. If they only knew what I was up to.
That's right.
If they only knew what was possible, they would be so impressed.
It is one of the cool things we carry around with us.
I mean, is the research part of it that you're doing right now fulfilling enough, or is there that part of you that says, man, I can't wait until this is real and everybody has it?
The research is just the beginning. I think, as you point out, the real satisfaction comes in putting it in everyone's hands and watching, as people change their behaviors and their relationships with computers and their relationship with technology, as well as enabling things that they weren't able to do before.
Mm-hmm. So, what is right now in front of you? What is the next step? What are you working on right now that you're allowed to talk about? What is the next step for you? Where are you at in all of this?
So as Desni was saying before, this works really well in some constrained environments, and we want it to work in any environment. So anyone can go and take it and simply use it easily in their home. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done on mostly the software, but a little bit of the hardware to make it so that it's very easy to use. You can quickly train it, and it will just work out of the box. And that's what we're working on.
Yeah, I think it's also the case that hardware doesn't live in isolation of everything else. There are applications, there are experiences that need to be crafted around these things. We're not looking to replace the keyboard or the mouse or the Kinect or touch screens here. This is a brand new capability, and brand new experiences do have to be crafted around them. And so that's probably one of the next steps that we'll look at as well. How does a user in the real world, how does a consumer use this, and why would they use this, and why would they go out and buy something like this?
Well, this is such a cool thing, and to be displaying it and showing it off here. This is the 13th Microsoft Faculty Research Summit. First time we've been streaming it online, so there's this unique thing that's happening with Twitter. We're creating conversations, we're having people ask questions, weighing in on topics. So the hashtag is FACSUMM, FactSum. If they use that hashtag, we'll see them, we can look through them. And somebody just tweeted to me and basically asked what I was going to ask you is a lot of the folks watching are, very brilliant people, tech savvy, smart. What message would you want to get out to some of them who are either inspired by, like, wow, I should be doing something like that? What message would you want to put out to the folks watching?
So I think in this day and age, with the technologies and the platforms we have, the average consumer, the average techie, the average garage geek is amazingly empowered to go experiment, to go try stuff, to go innovate, to go invent. And stuff like this grows out because of a certain discipline of not letting anyone tell us that something's impossible. Mm-hmm. In fact, most of us are wired such that when someone tells us it's impossible, we go out and we have to prove them wrong.
Right.
And that would be my sort of recommendation here is that everyone should be trying out stuff. Everyone should be experimenting. It is an amazingly empowering time where we are able to control the technologies around us. And as a result, we're able to control a large part of what it is to be human. Because the truth is that how effective or ineffective we are in the environment is a function of the technologies we have around us. And so it is an exciting time. And I do hope that folks will be inspired by stuff like this and go out and try stuff and invent new stuff.
What about you from the student side?
Yeah.
You're in the trenches here, and a lot of folks say, "Man, yeah, I'd love to do that."
Well, it would be great if other people were working on it too, and could share the data and help us. Maybe they can come up with results that we haven't seen yet. It would definitely help push the research along.
And you guys had a talk over at the conference center, right?
That's right.
I gave a talk yesterday.
How did that go?
It went great, and got a lot of good feedback and reception from the.
Yeah. How did that go after you unveil? Were you approached by folks?
Yeah, a lot of people approached
comes up?
me, and similar to that, they said, I want one. When can I get one? They talked about trying to recreate the hardware themselves and try to duplicate the results. And I said, yeah, absolutely. You know, our papers are published, and that's why we do it. The details are in the paper, so you could duplicate the work. And if you have any questions, you know, let me know, and I can help.
Obviously, a lot of other stuff going on over there as well.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff to you, from your point of view, what struck you as cool?
Well, I like a lot of the you know, similar natural user interfaces type things. The augmented reality session I really liked. There's a lot of really cool work with, you know, new ways of interacting with computers.
Well, and I know you've got kids. We were talking about earlier. You know, is it sort of neat for you to imagine, you know, things that used to be new and cutting edge for us now are laughable, right? We're talking about the cell phones and the carrying cases and the cigarette lighters. I remember when my dad had his first CD player, the Discman, in the car. He plugged it in the cigarette lighter, and we were like, man, no, you can go over bumps and this thing won't skip.
That's right.
It's that cool and cutting edge.
That's right.
You know, and this stuff wasn't that long ago. So it's neat to think the kind of stuff you're talking about. Here it is in a prototype. We may not be that far off from, you know, the stuff that we watch in the movies. You know, we're at that point now where some of these futuristic movies you watch, the year is 2011. Wait a minute, that's already happened. So we're not on moon bases yet. I'm not flying around in a hover car, but we might be getting there to the point where we can walk in the house, it recognizes us, it knows what we want. We can sort of, like I said, use the Force and turn the lights on,
Absolutely.
do things like that. It's got to be kind of cool to know that, you know, looking in the eyes of your children, that, wow, I'm sort of developing this thing right now that might be that thing to them that is, Dad, that's so corny. You used to have to use a switch. Oh, God, you're embarrassing me.
That's right. That's right. Now, we had this wonderful moment recently where the kids, you know, came home from school and they said, you know, our teachers dug up this ancient machine and they showed us how it worked, and it was a VHS, you know, a videotape player.
That's funny. Yeah.
It was just this weird moment for us.
Same thing happened to me. I had discovered a bunch of my old movies. My daughter saw them. I want them. She recognized the pictures. I took them home. I happened to still have a DVD VHS combo unit. I popped it in. Credits were rolling. I go, oh, hang on, honey. Sorry, I got to rewind it. And my daughter says, I'm 5 years old, what's rewind? I went, wow. I don't think she's encountered rewinding.
Yep.
So I know what you mean. So you're seeing it.
Seeing it all over the place. I mean, they're learning to use a touch screen to interact with computers before they learn a keyboard and mouse. In fact, you know, both my kids can interact very proficiently with a touch screen, slightly less proficiently with a mouse, and they try to touch everything.
Right.
And they walk up to the TV and they try to swipe it. They walk up to people and sometimes they try to swipe them.
Right.
And there's this fascinating dynamic that's happening as we see technology evolve and as we see the new generation pick up on the new technology.
Sure. I mean, it seems like 10 minutes ago, Kinect was brand new. And now I watch my daughter explore Disneyland and meet characters, and she's 5, and she's figured out how to do it, like you said, and they're swiping and they're zooming on the phones. It's unbelievable. Yep. And obviously you guys have a long ways to go, a lot to figure out, but let's just flash forward 1 year. Where do you hope to be 1 year from now?
Well, 1 year from now, I hope that, you know, we've solved some of those problems I talked about earlier with the generalizability, and, you know, maybe we can do a larger scale deployment where, you know, maybe it's not just Desney and I trying this, but a large group of people going out to homes and trying it. I think that'd be great to see.
What do you think? A year from now, what's realistic for you?
Yeah, I think that's realistic, and I think the additional piece to that is really exploring the applications and the experiences that it enables. You know, we haven't talked about healthcare. Mm-hmm. You know, we've got these devices that we put in our pocket to measure how many steps we take during the day. We've got these devices we wear on our wrists to figure out how active we are during the day. As Gabe points out, you know, this gives us a bunch of different sensing capabilities beyond what an accelerometer, which is the thing in most of these devices, can do. And so exploring that, you know, exploring the interaction space, how can we control computers, and what do we care to control if we could be waving our arms in any environment we walk in, be it the car, or be it your bedroom, or be it, you know, your living room or the office. How would we think about computing, not just computers, but computing? Should we start enabling people with these capabilities? And I think it's an exciting path ahead. I think, you know, that we've got quite a fun path, a fun playground to play in the next year.
It's funny, though, as you talk about the healthcare and, you know, I could keep track of how physical we are during the day. It's totally, you know, logical that at some point we could all be monitored that way. Our doctor could, well, let's see here. It looks like, which then for guys like me, I'm going to figure out how to manipulate it. If I put it in the dryer on spin for 20 minutes, he'll think I was jogging. Perfect. So, but hopefully we won't have to manipulate it. We can use it practically. Guys, this is very cool. Thanks for demoing the human antenna. I had no idea I was capable of so much. This is awesome. Good luck in your research and good luck at school.
Thanks a lot.
Finish and get out of there and conquer the world, all right?
Will do.
Thanks, guys, so much. You're going to get a flood of ideas now. Thank you to Desney and Gabe for the fascinating look at yet another of the wonders new and pervasive computing is providing us with here. And many thanks to Desney and Gabe for that. And many thanks to you for joining us here for the 13th Annual Microsoft Research Faculty Summit. Still plenty more to come as we head down the home stretch of the event here in day 2, including a look at the role of social media in research. But right now, we take you back to the Kodiak room for a special encore presentation of Microsoft Chief Research Officer Rick Rashid's keynote speech, blending of the worlds of physical and virtual worlds from research to reality. Take a look.
Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.